Hello and welcome to today's daily news report, where I cover the biggest stories affecting your wallet, life, and money. You watch this channel each day because I keep you in the loop on what's really going on in Washington, D.C. with President Biden and the U.S. economy, so let's jump right in. Before we do, though, could I ask a favor? Will you give this video a like? My channel is getting censored because of certain topics that I've been talking about this week. And this is a great way to overcome the algorithm and get these videos out to people like you that enjoy watching them. So thank you so much in advance. President Joe Biden is facing an uphill battle as midterm elections get closer and his ratings are dropping. So the closer we get to the election, the lower his approval rating. Sources close to him now say he is seriously considering forgiving $10,000 of student loan debt per person. The White House has urged people not to get their hopes up because the decision isn't made, but it's something he's seriously considering as we get closer to the election. A chief economist at Goldman Sachs has found that this kind of debt forgiveness would benefit middle and upper income families the most, which goes the exact opposite of what President Biden was promising. Republicans are now accusing Biden of trying to buy votes right before the election. Many Republicans argue that this is a bad way to go about the issue, as future generations will want similar treatment and you won't be able to give it to them. So forgiving that debt is not the right move, and it is just another dangling carrot from the Democrat Party. Again, these are Republican words. Or in simple terms, a one-time bailout does not fix the real problem the U.S. government has caused by having young men and young women go into excessive amounts of debt that may or may not be paid off within a few years of getting a job. The debt would have to be covered by raising taxes on all Americans, and they're saying that it would cost the American taxpayer about $230 billion to do this. Now, this doesn't mean that Biden's not going to do it. I'm just laying out what I'm reading in the news today. The stock market rallied upwards today after news surfaced that showed the 12-month annual inflation rate dropped by about 4.5% in April. This is really good news. Senior director at Moody Analytics said this is a small step in the right direction, but inflation remains comfortably above the Federal Reserve's target. The good news for the Fed is that most measures of long-term inflation expectations remain consistent with the Fed's target. Now, I urge my community to be cautious in the stock market, as many experts that are smarter than you and I are saying the drop in the stock market might not be over yet. So they're not saying it's not over. They're not saying it is over. So just be cautious for anything that you're buying into right now. Remember that even in a recession, there are upward rallies that could come back down, or the market could still crash. But I'm getting a little bit more optimistic about what I'm seeing in the market personally. We now have a timeline on when the baby formula shortage is expected to come to an end. The commissioner of the FDA has announced that the issue will not be fully resolved until July. Yikes. He said, "My expectation is within 2 months, we should be beyond normal with a plethora. It's going to be gradual improvement up to probably somewhere around 2 months from now when shelves are replete again." So it's going to take some time to get that baby formula in. In the meantime, countries are sending the United States donations. Like, really? The United States needs to take money and food from other countries? It just seems like so backwards, right? Okay, now news just broke that a trio was sentenced to 18 years in prison for the crime of selling baby formula. Basically, they had worked out a deal to buy American baby formula at a heavy discount. Then they would turn around and take it to South America, but instead they were selling it online for the exact same price and made about $200 million. So they're going to be fined $200 million and they're going to go to jail. I told you guys, there's scumbags out there taking advantage of these babies needing formula. It's so sad. Okay, now Senator Joe Manchin told Axios reporters that he and Chuck Schumer have had a strained relationship since last December. But now Manchin wants Schumer to sit down and discuss a slimmed down stimulus bill. Manchin acknowledged two things. Biden's approval rating going into the election is terrible, and people are frustrated by the high cost of food and gas. Second, he acknowledged Schumer will have a hard time getting all 50 Democrats on board. So, even if Manchin comes to the table, Schumer is still going to have to cobble together the other 48 votes. Now, behind the scenes, Joe Manchin has been meeting with a bipartisan group of senators to hammer out some preliminary ideas before he brings those to Chuck Schumer or even President Biden. So a lot is going on behind the scenes that even I didn't know about that is now coming out because of this Axios interview. Joe Manchin said he is uneasy with the amount of tax credit President Biden wants to offer electric vehicle companies. He says most of that credit money from the government will go to China or to Mexico. And so he's very uncomfortable with that. He wants that money to stay here in the United States. Manchin said he also wants Medicare given authority to negotiate with Big Pharma directly on the price of pharmaceuticals, medications, things like that. He feels this would save the U.S. government hundreds of billions of dollars over time. Manchin also wants the Biden administration to come up with a real plan to solve the oil and gas crisis we're all living through. Last week, however, Manchin discovered the Department of Interior's report showed Biden's team is trying to block new well leases for the next 5 years. He said, "My goodness, you're trying to shut down the economy." Manchin is worried about the risk Biden is putting on the country as he tries to go green too fast. Regarding gun reform, Chuck Schumer and Democrats are saying Republicans are the reason for gun crime and the death of the 19 children in Texas. However, he failed to mention that Chuck Schumer single-handedly chose to block a gun reform bill built by Republicans and parents of the Parkland school shooting from a few years ago. So today, he's being called a hypocrite for using this incident to smear his party's enemy, the Republicans, while at the same time blocking legislation from Republicans and the parents themselves that had to deal with this same horrific tragedy a few years ago. Schumer again pushed for a domestic terrorist act program, but Republicans say until you stop labeling parents that want to know what their kids are being taught, then this terrorist thing will not get our vote. So things continue to remain ugly in Washington, D.C. As the Russia-Ukraine war rages on, the Washington Post has reported that many Ukrainian troops are much worse off than you think. Volunteers made a statement saying, "We are being sent to certain death. People close to the war have stated that troops are untrained and in some cases denied ammunition because it's too expensive. Some are being starved, surviving on one potato a day." Now, I want you to know the reality that these troops are facing because they are making huge sacrifices for their country. But it doesn't look good. I don't know that we're being told the full truth about what's really going on in Ukraine, but this came out today and I wanted to share that with you. Russian President Putin has stated that he will help the world fix the food chain supply issue under one condition. The Kremlin explains Vladimir Putin emphasizes that the Russian Federation is ready to make a significant contribution to overcoming the food crisis through the export of grain and fertilizer, subject to the lifting of politically motivated restrictions by the West. With the U.S. making commitments to Ukraine, it is unlikely we will drop the restrictions brought upon Russia anytime soon. The world will be forced to find a way to become self-sufficient, which could spell major economic challenges in the short term. In fact, I read today that possibly 300 million humans are at risk of starvation because of this food situation. And Putin is saying, you guys put all these sanctions on us and now we can't farm, we can't move the food. If you lift those, we are happy to contribute to the world. We are not at war with the world. We are at war with Ukraine. And so there may have to be some realignment of priorities and getting this thing reopened. There is so much food and grain sitting in Ukraine, and in Russia, but there's no way to get it out to Europe. There's no way to get it out by ship or by train. And so this could be coming to all of us here in the next few months. Now, this is my update for today. As I know more, I will definitely come on and share more with you. The month of May is almost over. Don't forget, Casey and I, we're trying to help as much as we can here in our community. We're giving away $6,000 in cash. 12 of you are going to win $500. You can do whatever you want with the money. There's no strings attached. I'll make sure to leave a link down below. Now, before you go, I want to remind you that you are amazing. I really, really believe that. And I appreciate you being in my YouTube community. And I'll see you on the next video.